Hi guys, welcome back to GCSE Maths Attack. In today's video, we shall be going through the sine rule. I will be going through the calculation on sine rule. However, in this video, I will not be going through the proof of the sine rule and how we got this formula. I will not be going through the cosine rule. I will make a separate video on the cosine rule. I will also make a separate video based on how to prove the sine rule and the cosine rule and why they work. So without further ado, let's begin. Okay, so we've been told to work out the value of y, and we can see that that is an angle. Now, I've written down the sine rule, and this is how I use the sine rule. If I want to work out the angles, I will place sine A, sine B, and sine C in the numerators. If I want to work out the missing side, then I will rewrite this and I will place A at the top and sine A at the bottom. So I will write it as following. I will write A over sine A equals B equal over sine B, capital B, remember, C over sine C. And this is the one that I use to work out missing length. This is for missing angle and this is for missing length. Now, majority of the times, you will not need to use more than two, okay? So usually you just need to use two of these formulas in order to work out the missing side or angles. Okay, so let's begin. So let's look at this question. The first thing I'm going to do is label this. Doesn't matter what order you label it, let's just label it. I'm going to call this capital A. Remember, the capital stands for the angle. I'm going to replace this Y for a B, and I'm going to call this AC. Okay, so I'm going to call this A. Remember, lowercase if it's a length. I'm going to call this lowercase c, and I'm going to call this lowercase b. I've been asked to work out B, so the angle of B, and I've been given the side, okay? So if I'm asked to work out the angle, like I told you, I'm going to use this formula over here. So we're just going to rewrite this. I'm going to write sine B, because that's the one I'm interested in, all over 10 centimeters. I can write 10. Then I'm going to write down what other lengths I have been given. Now, I'm not being given any information about A. I'm not given a length and I'm not given an angle. So this is quite useless for me right now. I've been given actually an angle of C and I'm being given a length. So I'm going to write down sine 64 all over 15 centimeters. Now, after this, all we have to do is rearrange this formula to make B the subject. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove this 10 over here. Now, because it's divided by 10, I'm going to multiply both sides by 10. So those two cancel out. I'm left with sine B equals sine 64 all over 15 times 10. And if I place that in my calculator, I would get 0.599 blah, blah, blah. Okay. Now, I said to you, I'm interested in B, not sine B. Now, in order for us to get B on its own, we need to do the inverse of sine. So you can put in your calculator sine minus 1 and this over here. So 0.599, and that will give us B. Okay, if you place that in your calculator, you should get 36.81 degrees. Next question over here, work out the length of AB. Now, I'm being asked to work out the length. Now, because I'm being asked to work out a length, what I'm going to do is going to rewrite this formula over here. I'm going to rewrite it again. First, label this. So since this is A, this will be lowercase a. Since this is B, I'll call this lowercase b. And since this is C, I will call this lowercase c. Because this angle is opposite this side, that means I need to work out this angle. Now, I can see that angles on a triangle add up to 180. So in order for me to work this missing angle, the first thing I'm going to do is 180, take away 31, take away 96, and that will give me 53. Okay, so 53. Now I'm going to write this formula again. Do I need C? Yes, I do need C. Do I need anything else? Yes, I do need. Do I need B? Not really. I've been given an angle, but I'm not given a side length. I need two information in order for this calculation to work. I need a side and an angle, so I don't really need B. A is much better to use because A is given a angle and it's given a side. So I'm going to use these two over here. Now, because we're focusing on a length, I'm going to rewrite these both formulas, but I'm just going to write the reciprocal of it. So what I mean by that is I'm going to write A over sine A equals C over sine C, and that's it. Okay, I don't need to write equals B over sine B. You only need two. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to just substitute the numbers in. A is 8.4 all over sine 31 equals C. I don't know what C is, but I am interested in C, all over sine 53. Now what I'm going to do is I need to get rid of this sine 53. Now because it's divided by, I'm just going to multiply both sides by sine 53 times sine 53. Those two cancel out. I am left with sine 53 times, I'm just going to put this in brackets, 8.4 all over sine 31, and that will give me C. Now if I place that in my calculator, I will get 13.03, and that is equal to 13.03. So it's just as simple as that. Okay, so find the angle Y. Okay, so where is Y? Y is over here. So I'm just going to relabel this again. So I'm going to call this A. I'm going to call this lowercase a. I'm just going to call this B. Remember, capital B. C. So this should be C. This will be lowercase b. Told to work out Y, but I've replaced Y for B. In this case, I've replaced it for B. So I need to be given at least one information about B if I want to work out the angle of B. So I've been given the side length. Now, because I've been asked to work out the angle, I'm going to use this formula. So I don't really need to change it. What else have I been given? Have I been given any information about C? I've been given nothing about C, so it's quite useless for me to use C. I have been given two information about A. I've got an angle A and I have a side A. So this formula will work. So I'm going to rewrite this. So I'm going to write down sine 84 all over 32.4 equals sine B all over 21. Now I need to remove this 21. So I'm going to multiply both sides by 21. Now these two cancel out. I'm left with sine 84 all over 32.4 times 21 equals sine B. Okay, if I place that in my calculator, I will get a value, and the value that I do get is sine B equals 0.644 something something. Yeah, now I'm not interested in sine B, however I am interested in B. Okay, so how do I work out B? I need to do the inverse. Okay, so sine minus 1 0.644 will equal to B. So B equals 40.14, and that is your answer. Right, a boat is located at a position X. So we have a boat and it's over here. It's running out of fuel. There are two ports. Okay, so we have two different ports, and the two different ports that we have is Y and it is Z. The boat must refuel as soon as possible. Okay, good. Okay, how much closer is boat to the port Y than port Z? Okay, so we're just checking the length. So how would we answer this question? Well, it's quite straightforward. All we have to do is work out the length of this side and this side. Okay, so let's begin. So I'm going to call this x, so this is lowercase x. I'm going to call this z, so this is lowercase z. This is going to be lowercase y. Okay, so what am I going to do first? Well, what I need to do is work out this angle over here. So in order for me to work out this angle, what I can do is I know that angles in a triangle add up to 180. Okay, because angles add up to 180, I can do 180 subtract 45 subtract 60, and that will leave me with 75. So I know that this is 75 degrees. Okay, so what can I do? Okay, so I'm gonna always be using x because I've been given two information about x. So instead of using sine A, I'm gonna call it x. I'm gonna call the b, what shall I call the b? I'll call it y, and then I'll call the c, z, and z. Okay, so I've just rewritten this again. So let's begin. So what we're going to do is let's do it step by step. Let's work out z. So I'm going to write down, because it's a length, I'm going to rewrite these equations, but I'm going to write the reciprocal. So I'm going to do z at the top. So I'm going to do z, which I don't know what it is, all over sine 45 equals, and it will be this length and this angle over here. So 28 all over sine 75. Okay, now I need to remove this sine 45, so I must multiply this side by sine 45. Whatever I do to one side, I must do to the other side. So I know that these two numbers, they cancel out. So I know that this cancels out with this. So I'm left with z equals 28 over sine 75 times sine 45. And if I put that in my calculator, I should get the value of. Okay, so if you place that in your calculator, you will get a value of 20.497. So 20.497. So I know that this length over here is 20.497. Okay, next. So what am I going to do now? I'm going to work out the value of y. Same thing, I'm going to use this length and this angle. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to rewrite it as y at the top because I want to work out the length. Sine 60 equals, and then I'm going to use these two over here, 28 over sine 75. So I'm going to times both sides by sine 60 times sine 60. Y equals 28 over sine 75 times sine 60. And then y equals, and if you place that in your calculator and if you do that separately, that should give you the value of 25.104. So this is 25.104. So the closest one would be this value over here from y to x, because this is 25.104. Right guys, I would like you to pause the video and have a go at this question. It says find the angle ABC when angle B is obtuse. Alright guys, so I'm assuming that you paused the video. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to call this B, I'm going to call this C, and I'm going to call this A. Okay, so I've been asked to work out angles. I've been asked to work out angle B. What other information have I been given? I've been given less information about this. However, I've been given a lot of information about C. I've been given an angle and I've been given a side. So I'm going to use this over here. So I'm just going to quickly rewrite that. So it's going to be sine B over B equals sine C over C. If I substitute the numbers, I would get sine B over 20 equals sine C, which we know is 35, all over 12. Okay. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove this 20. Now, in order for me to remove this 20, I need to times both sides by 20. So this gives me sine 35 over 12 times 20 times 20. Okay, so this leaves me with sine B equals sine 35 over 12 times 20. You're left with sine B equals, and you put that in your calculator, you will get sine B equals 0.95596. Now, I'm not interested in this, I need B. So I'm going to do the sine inverse 0.95596, and that should give me 72.9. Okay, now if you read the question says it's an obtuse angle. Okay, so currently we've got this as 72.9. Just going to quickly rub this all off. Okay, so we currently have 72.9, but the question said it's an obtuse angle, so that means it's greater than 180. I'm just going to quickly draw the sine graph. So that's 0, that's 90, that's 180, that's 270, and that is 360. Okay, so after I've done that, that's 1, that's minus 1. Here you go. Draw that. Okay, now what I'm going to do, this is a rough sketch by the way. What I'm going to do is I'm going to locate where 72.9 is, and I think that's roughly somewhere here. So that from this length to this length, that is going to be 72.9. Now using reflection, this is also going to be from here to here minus 72.9. Because you are interested in this angle. So over here, if I do 0 plus 72.9, you will reach here. If I do 180, take away 72.9, that will give you this angle, and it will be obtuse because it will be greater than 90 degrees. So we're going to do 180 take away 72.9. And if you subtract that, you should get 107. And that angle is obtuse. Okay guys, this is a final question on sine rule. Pause the video and have a go at this question. Okay, so I'm assuming that you've paused this video and you've had a go at this question. So it's asked you to find the value of x. Now the first thing I'm going to do is use Pythagoras' theorem to work out this length over here. So because this is the smallest side, I know that I'm going to do hypotenuse squared subtract 5 squared. So let's write the Pythagoras' theorem down. So it will be a squared plus b squared equals c squared. I'll label this a, I'll label this b, and I will label this c. So what am I left with? So a squared plus b, which is 5 squared, equals 13 squared. I'm interested in a, so I'm going to do a squared equals 13 squared. Subtract 5 squared, then I am going to do square root on both sides, and I'm left with a, and the square root of 13 squared take away 5 squared will leave me with the answer of 12. So I know that this length over here is 12 centimeters. Okay, I no longer need to focus on that triangle. I can now focus on this triangle over here, and I'm just going to quickly have labeled this triangle. So let's call this A, and this is lowercase a. Let's call this B, this will be B. Let's call this C, and then this will be C. So I'm just going to replace that A with a C. I've been asked to work out the value of x. Now, because I've been asked to work out the value of x, that means I need to know the angle of B, because technically I'm just going to replace that x with a B, and I'll call that B just so I don't get confused in the exam. Now, I've been technically asked to work out the length of B, but in order for me to even work out the length of B, I need to know the angle. So I know that angles on the triangle add up to 180. So I'm going to do 180, subtract 65, subtract 40. And if I subtract that, I will get the value of 75. So this angle over here is 75 degrees. Now I'm going to use the sine rule over here. Because I've been asked to work out the length, I'm going to rewrite this again. So before I even rewrite this, what other information can I use? I can use this one over here and this length over here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to quickly highlight that. I'm going to use this angle and this length. Because I've been given two information about C, the angle and the length, this formula will work for me. So I'm just going to quickly rewrite it. So I'm going to be using B and sine C. Don't really need A. I'll be given an angle, but I haven't been given a length, so I can't really use this. So I'm going to rewrite it, but this time I'm going to write the reciprocal because I want the length at the top, just to make the calculation much easier since I've been asked to work out the length. So B over sine B equals C over sine C. Okay, so what do I do now? I'm just going to substitute. So B over sine 75 equals C, which is 12 over sine 40. After I've done that, I'm going to multiply both sides by sine 75. Those two cancel out. I'm left with B equals 12 sine 40 times sine 75. And if I place that in my calculator, I will get the value of 18.0. So this length over here becomes 18. Okay, if you really like this video, please comment, like, subscribe, share, follow me on TikTok called Maths Attack. Thank you very much for getting this far to my video.